Am I the antagonist for calling my foster mother a creep? I, female 15, got taken into care 2 years ago, which I protested against. I could have easily just gone to live with my older brother, Niall, male 23, instead of being forced to live with some strangers. The couple I live with, Mavis and Daniel, female 49, male 50, are okay, I suppose. They're more keen on me than I am on them. They couldn't have kids of their own and they're doing their best to make me theirs, which can be stifling. They don't understand that I'm not a toddler or some super sheltered teenager that they need to be protective over. They freak about almost anything. Mavis gets upset if I wear makeup. She freaked out when I got my ears pierced with some of my friends last year. She keeps saying that she doesn't want to jeopardize anything that would forbid them from adopting me in the long term. My foster parents dislike Niall. They don't like the way he speaks. Very heavy Manchester accent, swears a lot. He's come over once on my birthday and they told him off for calling me our kid. They think that he's rough just because he doesn't live conventionally and is quite bohemian. I don't see him a lot as he's an audio technician for gigs and he tends to travel a lot. He's been in town recently and he's called me to ask if I'd like to go and spend time with him. He'd even pay for the eyebrow piercing I've been wanting. Of course, I agreed. He turned up at the house, all set to pick me up. I even told Daniel prior, and he said that it was all right. Literally, as I was putting my coat on, Mavis came and started acting as if something horrible was going to happen. She said that Niall can't take me out because it wasn't previously arranged with the social worker, and that she doesn't trust him enough to take care of a vulnerable teenager, right? Literally slammed the door in his face. She then apologized to me and said that she was only safeguarding, that Niall is unpredictable and could be seen as unsafe because he is part of my biological family. I laughed in her face because it's just so absurd, and I called her a creep for thinking the worst of my brother. It's upset her, and even Daniel said that I was being immature and an asshole. First of all, let me just say, wow, your life seems to be like a reality TV show with unexpected plot twists. It's like keeping up with the foster fam drama. On a serious note, the situation you're in is definitely tricky. It sounds like your foster parents are trying their best, albeit in a slightly overbearing way. Mavis and Daniel seem to care a lot about you, even if it comes off as stifling. It's important for them to understand that you're not a delicate flower that needs extreme protection. As for Niall, well, he seems like a cool older brother willing to splurge on an eyebrow piercing. I mean, who can say no to that? It's understandable that you'd want to spend time with him, especially if he treats you like family. However, I do have to mention that Mavis and Daniel probably just have your best interests at heart, even if their actions may seem a bit controlling. It's a tough situation all around, and tensions can run high. Maybe a calm, sit-down conversation where you express your feelings and try to understand theirs could help smooth things over. In the end, it's about finding a balance between asserting your independence and appreciating the care your foster parents provide. And as for calling Mavis a creep and laughing in her face, well, a bit of humor can go a long way, but a heartfelt conversation might be the key to resolving these conflicts. Am I the antagonist for getting mad at my parents for focusing on my dead grandma when it's my birthday? Am I the asshole for getting mad at my parents for focusing on my deceased grandmother when it's my birthday? Title makes me sound like the asshole, but I want outside opinions. To start off, my grandmother and I, 17-year-old male, shared a birthday. She was my favorite person, and I love that we shared a birthday together. She always got me the best stuff. Sadly, she died 4 years ago, a month before our birthday. I was 13 and heartbroken. We didn't celebrate my birthday because it brought too many emotions. I was fine with this because I was grieving as well, and I didn't want to celebrate without her. Well, this happened the second year as well. I get that it was a year, so it was fine. I will admit that I expected a make-up birthday on a different day, but it never came. Everyone else had their birthdays and got amazing gifts and parties and whatnot. The third year, I actually set up a bunch of plushies that my grandma loved and a picture of her on our dining room table so she could celebrate with us in memory. The morning of my birthday, I came downstairs and was immediately scolded for trying to have fun on a sad day. I went back up to my room without saying anything and played Zelda, Breath of the Wild for the rest of the day. My birthday was within the last week, not specifying for safety reasons, and my parents told me to get dressed in something smart because we were going somewhere special. I was super excited because I thought that my family would finally acknowledge me on my birthday. After about a 20-minute drive, we reached this garden that my grandma loved. It was her favorite place in the world, and I came here often with her. The whole family was there when we arrived, but there were no happy faces. Turns out we went there to be sad. To just sit in silence. No one even said hello to me. I had enough and yelled at them all and accused them of not caring about me anymore. I went on a rant. A lot of my words probably weren't coherent because of how upset I was. After I had finished yelling, I went back to our car and sat next to it, after forgetting the keys. Since then, I have received a load of messages from the family members of whom I have the numbers of, all telling me I'm an asshole. I asked my friends, but they've shared their dislike for my family, so they're probably biased. I just want an outside opinion. So, am I the asshole? While it's understandable that your family wants to honor your deceased grandmother on your shared birthday, it's also important for them to consider your feelings on your special day. It seems like there was a miscommunication and a lack of understanding regarding how to navigate this emotional time together. Your outburst may have been fueled by long-standing unmet expectations and feelings of neglect. It might be helpful to have an open and honest conversation with your family about how you feel and find a way to honor your grandmother's memory while also celebrating your own birthday. Your feelings are valid, and it's important for your family to acknowledge and respect them. In the meantime, try to find ways to remember your grandmother in a positive light and cherish the memories you shared with her. And hey, happy belated birthday. May your next birthday be filled with joy and celebration, both for you and your grandma in spirit. Am I the antagonist for defending my girlfriend's middle school bully? I'm 29 years old male, trying to figure out if I'm in the wrong for feeling upset about something my girlfriend, 29 years old female, did. So this past weekend, we were visiting her parents and stopped at a fast food joint. After we got our food and left, my girlfriend started relentlessly mocking the cashier and made a bunch of comments about how aged she looked, how her entire being must reek of deli meat, how she hoped the cashier was stuck living with a bunch of roommates, etc. I was just confused by her sudden vitriol. I asked her what was her deal with this particular cashier, and that's when she explained to me that this person had bullied her and her best friend in middle school. I put bully in quotes because, from the stories she's told me, it sounds more like this person was part of a larger group that teased her and her best friend during PE. And not coincidentally, other non-white kids. I was sympathetic at first, because I didn't realize that she had ever experienced bullying, but after getting more context, it felt less like prolonged torture and just typical mean kid stuff. For reference, my girlfriend is East Asian, and her best friend is Indian. I'm also East Asian, so I'm not trying to dismiss their racism as nothing more than schoolyard bullying, but it seems like since they weren't able to get a rise out of them, they gave up and moved on to picking on other kids. I even asked if she still felt affected by their taunting, but she said that she really hasn't thought about any of them since middle school. After what felt like her fifth comment about the cashier's droopy nasolabial folds, I got a little fed up and asked her to move on and let it go. She took offense to this and proceeded to fill out the online guest survey form, intentionally lying about the cashier's poor hygiene and service. She also wanted to leave a negative Google review, but I think, well, I hope, I talked her out of it. I tried to calm her down, but she said she wasn't riled up and that she didn't care about this person or what happened to them and didn't expect for her customer feedback to do much damage. But if it did, she wouldn't care either way. I've never seen her act this vindictively, and honestly, the whole thing has thrown me off. I'm questioning if I'm the asshole for calling her out. She thinks I'm taking the bully's side, but I think she's being a callous jackass and unnecessarily cruel. In this situation, it seems like your girlfriend may have some unresolved feelings from her middle school experience that are coming to light in unexpected ways. While it's understandable that she would feel hurt by past bullying, her behavior towards the cashier was definitely crossing a line into unnecessary cruelty. Perhaps it would be helpful to have a conversation with her about how her actions made you feel and express your concerns about the way she handled the situation. It's important to acknowledge her feelings, but also highlight the importance of moving past past hurts and not letting them dictate current behavior. Remember, a little empathy goes a long way, just like a side of fries goes well with fast food. Am I the antagonist for lying to my family by getting a boyfriend? I'm going to start this saying I don't think I'm in the wrong, but maybe another perspective could help. I, 17 years old female, don't like makeup. I've tried it before, but I don't like how it looks on me, so I never wear any. However, my sister, 19 years old female, loves makeup and refuses to leave the house without any on. When we were in school together, my sister would get mad when I got attention from boys and she didn't, even though I was younger. She would bring up that I don't wear makeup or put much effort into my looks, so it didn't make sense for boys to like me more. I do put effort into my appearance, just not to the same level as her. She would always try to get between me and any guy she thought was interested in me, even though most of the guys were actually just friends, and we laughed at her for thinking they were into me, which I never minded since I was never into them either. This embarrassed her and she still hasn't let it go, I guess. Now to the main story. I recently got a boyfriend. He's an old friend, one of the ones that said he wasn't into me a few years ago. Things changed recently and we're pretty happy together. We've only been together for 2 months, so we haven't told that many people, including my sister. She was in town for the weekend visiting from her university. She happened to arrive when our parents weren't home, and my boyfriend and I were cuddling on the couch watching TV. He noticed her first and said hi. She looked confused for a minute, then started bawling and ran up to her room and slammed the door. That freaked us both out. Apparently, she called our mom when she got into her room because she came home right away. She told us my sister said we humiliated her, but we didn't do anything. We told mom what happened and she was just as confused as us. Mom got my sister to come out of her room, but she was still crying. It took a few minutes for her to calm down, but then she started screeching at me that I was a liar and a brat, and I humiliated her. When I asked how since I didn't even talk to her before she started freaking out, she said it was because of my boyfriend. We said before that we didn't like each other, but now we were cuddling and it was unfair because we lied to her. I told her we didn't lie, but she couldn't hold us to something we said years ago. Feelings sometimes change, but apparently she remembers when we laughed at her for thinking we liked each other back then and how she got shit from her friends for it. And now we're together, so we humiliated her for nothing. Then she started going into her usual rants of how I don't wear makeup and don't dress as nice as her, so it's not fair. I have a boyfriend and she doesn't. I told her she was being delusional and she can't keep blaming me for her being single. She started bawling again and ran back to her room. My boyfriend and mom are on my side that she's being overdramatic, but my dad thinks I could have worded things nicer because she spent most of the weekend crying. I don't even know. Am I the asshole? Well, first of all, let's give a standing ovation to the soap opera unfolding in your living room. It sounds like a classic case of sibling drama with a splash of high school-style pettiness thrown in for good measure. You are definitely not the asshole here. Your sister's reaction to seeing you cuddling with your boyfriend on the couch borders on Shakespearean tragedy levels of melodrama. It's like she's starring in her own private performance of the days of our lives. It's understandable that she may feel a bit left out or envious, but her over-the-top emotional outbursts and blaming you for her relationship status are way out of line. Perhaps she needs a reality check that relationships aren't a competition about who wears the most makeup or dresses the fanciest. Your dad's suggestion to handle the situation with a bit more tact might have some merit, but honestly, dealing with a whirlwind of emotions like your sister is bringing to the table can be like tiptoeing through a minefield. Sometimes, a direct and firm response is the best way to clear the air and set boundaries. In conclusion, keep rocking your makeup-free boyfriend cuddling lifestyle, and don't let your sister's theatrics dim your shine. Just remember to keep the popcorn ready for the next episode of Keeping Up with the Crying Sisters. Am I the antagonist for driving from Ill to NYC, leaving my friend without transportation when she had a family emergency? I, 36 years old female, live with my friend, 33 years old female, and my boyfriend, 48 years old male, in Illinois, United States. My friend owns a 1970s Lincoln that is constantly in and out of the shop. I still own the car I bought back when I lived in the United Kingdom and imported here. It's a 2010s Jaguar and it does the job just fine. My friend doesn't drive it because she's scared to drive a right-hand drive vehicle, claiming that it's uncomfortable and the field of vision is off. My boyfriend has a 1990s Chevy that runs as well as a new one. My friend borrows it sometimes when her car is out of commission. My boyfriend has no issues with driving the Jaguar. My mother was in New York City on a business trip. She lives in the UK, and I rarely see her in person after I moved to the US. We decided to meet, but since her trip was only a week long, she couldn't come all the way to Chicago, and it was more convenient for me to just come to NYC. Initially, I was planning to fly, but my boyfriend, who also wanted to go to NYC, offered to organize a carpool and take the Suburban instead because it could fit more passengers than the Jaguar. We charged slightly less than Greyhound does, and it turned out to be pretty lucrative. Anyway, while we were away and my mom finally met my boyfriend, my friend had a family emergency. Her mom lives in Missouri and she got very sick. My friend, for some reason, thought that her car that barely runs would take her all the way to Kansas City. Not even halfway to Springfield, it broke down completely. The guy at the shop said it's basically a piece of scrap metal. My boyfriend is a mechanic, and he said it should have been scrapped like 10 years ago. Anyway, it needed some crazy pricey work. Luckily, her mom is okay now, but she had a health scare. When I came back home, she confronted me, telling me that I was an asshole when I took the Suburban, leaving her without any adequate transportation. She could have driven the Jaguar if she wasn't that skittish about it. I told her that and she was still annoyed at me. She is also mad because, according to her, I chose a lucrative carpool gig over helping a friend in need. My boyfriend said she's in the wrong because driving a right-hand drive car isn't that hard, and that she knew for sure her car would break apart. I don't blame her for not wanting to drive the Jaguar, but I think her demand was unreasonable. It sounds like quite the automotive adventure you've been on. First of all, I must say your vehicle collection seems like something straight out of a classic car show. Your friend's struggles with her vintage Lincoln and your boyfriend's trusty Chevy are quite the contrast to your imported Jaguar. It's like a real-life car sitcom. Now, on to the more serious matter at hand. Your friend's frustration over being left carless. While it's understandable that she relied on her unreliable vehicle, expecting you to prioritize her transportation woes over your visit to see your mom was a bit of a stretch. It's not every day that you get to reunite with a loved one, especially when they live across the pond. Your boyfriend's offer to organize a carpool to NYC was a thoughtful gesture, even if it meant leaving your friend in a lurch. And let's be real, making a quick buck off the trip was just icing on the cake. Ultimately, it seems like miscommunication and differing priorities led to this conflict. Hopefully, with some honest conversation and maybe a few lighthearted car jokes, you can smooth things over with your friend. Remember, friends don't let friends drive vintage scrap metal. Am I the antagonist for yelling at my sister-in-law when they tried to tell me what to do? My 31-year-old male wife's 31-year-old female sister, 29-year-old female, watches our kids every week on Tuesday mornings and Thursday nights. This is done to combat our crazy work schedules where I work 2 jobs and my wife works every night except on Tuesdays when she works mornings. Our kids can be a bit of a handful, with one having severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and the other having severe developmental delay due to autism. One of my children decided to bite a hole in a bag of cornmeal they found in the pantry and dump it all over their room. The other one, thinking it looked like fun, dumped a Sam's Club-sized bag of baking soda and mixed them together. I went to clean up the mess they caused and kept getting frustrated as it clogged up the vacuum and created extra laundry when I had just washed their sheets this past weekend. I went to go out something away and my oldest said, "Don't yell at me. I teach high school band and my kids came to a football game and saw me yell at the band kids to get their attention. She has been scared I'll yell at her ever since." I grabbed something near her and said in an exasperated voice, "If I haven't yelled at you yet, I'm probably not going to." Enter the sister-in-law, yelling at me to calm down, and you don't need to be yelling at her. My wife and I have been married for 6 years and her sister is constantly telling me what to do, being rude to me, and treating me like I'm not part of the family. She has also had developmental issues due to a rare disorder and being hard of hearing. Everyone defends her, saying that I don't know what she's been through because she had a liver transplant about 10 years ago. She gets whatever she wants and no one stands up to her. She is also incapable of taking care of herself and will be moving in with us one day. I personally had a traumatic childhood due to constant yelling, beating, and emotional trauma caused by one of my parents. In the past year, I lost what was probably the best job I ever had, lost both of my parents to cancer, almost lost my dog to diabetes. My siblings have all stopped communicating with me, and I've essentially been made to feel like my only purpose is servitude in my own house. I raised my voice and told her not to tell me what to do in my own house. She came charging at me like a wild boar, and I proceeded to raise my voice again and throw every ounce of frustration at her. I felt bad afterwards but refused to apologize. She told my wife that I was being abusive and how I threatened her. I told my wife my side of the story, and she isn't sure who to believe. I love my wife and her family, but I don't like being treated like a doormat. So, am I the asshole? Am I the antagonist? Wow, sounds like you've got a real cornmeal catastrophe on your hands. Dealing with kids mixing baking soda and cornmeal could turn any household into a mini science lab. It seems like tensions ran as high as a high school band trying to hit the right note at halftime. Your sister-in-law swooping in like a superhero to save the day could make anyone feel like they're in a family drama sitcom. But hey, nobody wants to feel like a glorified welcome mat, right? It's a tough situation when your wife's family dynamics start feeling like a liver transplant of emotions. Taking care of a house full of characters with their own storylines can be quite the challenge. Hopefully, you can find some harmony in this chaotic symphony. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.